Oh, Chef's
Oh
back.
no, not. Oh, Chef made it back, y'all. If you're talking, we can't hear you, Chef. Can't hear you.
It helps if I turn the microphone on, doesn't it? Now,
It would.
our regularly scheduled program.
You
So
just disappeared on us.
I'm gonna breeze through this pretty quick. So how about we do this? Just in case, if we're having a network issue, it's happened a few times today. Let me demo this. Is that okay?
That's great.
that's what we
Especially the
prepare
pasta. That's
for.
what I'm worried about.
So, that's what I heard. Is that okay? This is okay?
That's great, Chef.
Okay, then
That was
That's
the
what we
original
thought we were
plan.
doing anyway.
what happened?
That's what
That
we
was the
thought we were
original
doing
plan.
anyway.
Okay, well then good. We're all going to be on the same page. And so y'all ask questions as we go. I'm going to move this camera out of the way because just won't use that. And then, okay, I'm going to look. You have two different kinds of flour. Okay, so if you went to Blackboard to get the recipes, that's good and fine. If you didn't, let me give you kind of our basic pasta. This is pretty traditional, classical Italian, handmade egg pasta. Let me give you kind of our ratios, okay? We're gonna use 2 cups of flour.
Is that the 00 flour?
Just don't worry about that right now. We're just using 2 cups of flour.
Okay.
We're gonna use 6 eggs. And we're gonna use about a half a teaspoon or so of salt. Maybe a teaspoon, no, let's go about a half a teaspoon of salt. Now, table salt would really be best here because the salt granules are smaller and they'll spread out more throughout the pasta. This is going to need salt. Pasta always needs salt to create flavor, develop flavor. When you boil this, your pasta water needs to be pretty salty as well. So the salt of the sea, essentially, for every quart of water, you're going to use, probably 2 or 3 tablespoons of salt. And it's going to end up being really, really salty. But in future, as we do more pasta, you'll learn how to use the pasta water in some of our sauces. Traditional Italian Alfredo from Italy is not made with heavy cream. Did you know that?
I didn't know it was made with heavy cream anyway.
It's the pasta water. It's starchy pasta water and the cheese and butter. And anyway, there you go. This ratio flour, egg, salt, you can change up that flour as much as you want. So you can do 2 cups of all-purpose flour. You can do 2 cups of double-aught flour, and that's how you would call it. If you go to a mill, it's 00 flour. That has to do with the size of the grain, and millers would know double-aught flour is processed through a particular size of a mesh sieve. So when they grind the wheat to separate out all the hard parts of the bran and the germ, they're going to sift that through a number 50 or number 60 mesh. That doesn't mean anything for us right now, but that's going to give you double-aught flour. A number 40 mesh is a little bit larger, And that's what your all-purpose flour is. All-purpose flour is also generally a blend of two different wheats. So you're going to have hard wheat. About 80% of all-purpose flour is hard red wheat, and 20% of all-purpose flour is soft red wheat. And that just creates the blend that is generally good for any kind of baking. When you take baking one, you might get a little more of an introduction in the different kinds of flours, what makes bread flour, maybe what kind of wheat is in cake flour. And you've got hard wheat and you've got soft wheat. You've got red wheat and you have white wheat. And of all of those variations, you have spring wheat and you have winter wheat. And they are all different. Hard red winter wheat, hard red spring wheat, blah, blah, blah. So you can see there's all kinds of different wheat, right? The protein content, the amount of gluten, the protein strand that gives your baked goods structure and form, the part of the protein that some people are allergic to is different type of wheat. So one particular type of flour is going to be really good for cakes, and a different one for biscuits, and a different one for cookies and pastries, and a different one for bread. And then you get into different kinds of wheat for different kinds of bread. In artisan breads, if you ever want to get deeper in the pastry world and end up taking artisan bread, you'll cover all of that. It's not really something that we need to know. However, making pasta, you have two different flours. I would invite you to consider this if you would like to experiment a little bit further. Before you dive in, I'm going to demo and then you're going to do your thing. This is a larger bag. Kroger carries Bob's Red Mill brand stuff. Have you seen that? Semolina flour that is sold as pizza and pasta flour. This is superb pasta. This is from Durham wheat. Durham wheat is a different kind of wheat. It is the hardest wheat on the planet. And so when you feel this, it feels like really, really fine cornmeal. It is real gritty. It's a fine, fine grit, but it's gritty compared to all-purpose flour or this double-aught flour. Double-aught flour is ultra, ultra fine. It's the same wheat as all-purpose flour, but the grind is so fine that the particles are much, much smaller than all-purpose flour. That's going to be important in pasta. Okay. I would encourage you to sometime in the future experiment, maybe during the summer. Take this pasta recipe. You can do it this week if you want, but get a little bag of semolina flour. Now, with your all-purpose flour, your double-aught flour, if you're going to do this full-on experiment, what I would like you to do is try one batch of pasta with just all-purpose flour, 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I'd like you to try one batch of flour with just the double-aught flour. And what you got from the school is 2 cups. That container just happens to be 2 cups of flour. So your 16-ounce container, there you go. If your AP flour, all-purpose flour, looks about like this with a little bit of headspace, you've got about 3 3.5 to 3 2/3 of a cup of flour. So use 2 cups for one batch. And then if you go out and get semolina, cut the semolina, 1 cup semolina and 1 cup all purpose to your 6 eggs. And if you really want to be bold and courageous, try a batch of pasta with just semolina flour, 2 cups of semolina. So what I've given you just now, I think, is 5 versions for an experiment. 2 cups of all purpose, there's a whole batch. 2 cups of double aught, there's a whole batch. 1 cup of all purpose and 1 cup of semolina. I guess there's 4. And then 2 cups of semolina, 4 different batches. And you're going to come up with 4 different textures of finished pasta when you cook it and taste it. And so whatever you like is going to be okay. It's going to be right. For what I'm going to do for you, I'm going to use just the double aught flour. Okay. I love this. I buy it from King Arthur flour. I keep, they come in 2-pound bags. And I probably have 12, 14 pounds that I keep at home. Anyway, I make pizza just about every weekend, and I use that flour for pizza crust. And most of the pasta I make at home is this exact pasta. Okay, homemade. It's simple. It's easy. Go to Italy, visit somebody's home, and the Italian grandmama is going to do exactly this with this double aught flour. Okay, so let's check this. That's the wrong one. Oh no. Okay, that's the right one. Let me blow this up. How's that? All right. I'm going to put that flour just right in the middle of my work surface. Okay. You can do this in a bowl if you need to be a little bit on the cleaner side. I'll start with a fork, but we're going to make like a volcano. We're going to make a well right in the middle. That's going to be pretty good. This is, I don't have any table salt upstairs in the community ed classroom where I am, so that's just a simple measure of some kosher salt. And 1 whole egg. Two whole eggs. And my well is not at all big enough, is it? So now we're going to add to this 4 egg yolks. Mm-hmm. Now, usually you got egg on your fingers, on your hands. Usually we'd run right to the hand wash sink and get those all cleaned off. But we're about to dive right into the middle of this with your fingers. So I'm not gonna worry about doing that. And you're gonna start by mixing the eggs, not really beating them, but okay, beat a little bit while pulling in a little bit of flour at a time, all from the edges and the sides and the edges. And you're gonna get a really, really loose. It's gonna start off like a batter. Look at that color. I don't know where these eggs came from. Those are good eggs. Okay. If you can tell, right in the middle, this is really, really loose. But I have all these pieces that are broken away. Listen, this is very important to know and to understand. Okay, your goal here, make a note of this. You are not trying to incorporate all of the flour. You're trying to make a specific dough consistency. And, you know, you may need more flour. So you have a little bit of all-purpose flour on hand to continue to dust your work surface. The humidity of the day that you're working, you know, that's going to have an effect. Maybe you have too much flour. Maybe you have not enough flour. The exact moisture content of the eggs is going to make a difference here. And so what we're after is Play-Doh. A little bit tighter than Play-Doh. Bread dough, no, a little bit tighter than bread dough. Certainly much tighter than a biscuit. But is everybody familiar with Play-Doh? I mean, come on, we got kids and grandkids and nieces and nephews, and I'm almost 52 years old, and I like the daggum Play-Doh my own self. I have Play-Doh in my office. I'm not kidding. Okay, we are after that consistency. We want a dough that is about the texture of Play-Doh. All right. This is a nice tool to have if you happen to have one. If you don't, no harm, no foul. But now we're going to get in with our fingers and start pressing, mixing, and we're going to knead this a little bit. We're not kneading this as much as bread because we're not trying to develop the gluten quite as much as we do with bread. If we do, if you keep kneading this like bread dough, you're going to end up with pasta that is really, really dense and chewy, but it's a weird kind of chewy. And so we don't want that.
So one of the videos you have in our group, it says she needs the pasta or the dough for like 7 minutes. I think it's 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah, I need to change that video because that's dumb. So there is going to be some gluten developed. Look at that. I've got maybe a quarter cup, almost a quarter cup of flour left that I'm going to move off to the side. I don't know if you can see that in the camera very well. I'm not pressing very hard at all. Okay. I have something about the consistency of Play-Doh. I want to knead it to the point where, and I'll incorporate a little bit of flour at a time. I just want to remove that tacky feel. Okay, it's not sticking to my fingers, but it's still a little bit tacky. You know, it's got a little sticky to it. And so get it to where it's about as elastic as a racquetball, but the whole form, the whole texture of it is Play-Doh. There we go. Notice kneading, especially in this case, I turn it about 45 degrees. I pick it up. I'm using, just for me, it's a small ball. I'm using one hand and I'm using the heel of my hand. And so I pick it up and I tuck my fingers in and I use the heel of my hand to press it and kind of spread it at the same time. I pick it up and turn it again. Kind of squeeze it inside, press, and spread. All right, what do you think? You think you can handle this much? Bueller?
Looks easy enough.
Okay. You notice how I don't know how else to put it. It's the texture of Play-Doh. Hopefully that's going to resonate. That's going to make sense. Okay. This ball of Play-Doh versus this, that's pretty close to, you got 3 tablespoons of flour left out of those the 2 cups of double hot flour. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We're going to put this away. There are Italian homes. Any of y'all ever been to Italy? Anybody?
No.
There are Italian homes. You know an old Southern bread bowl? Do any of you know what I'm talking about whenever I say a bread bowl?
Yes.
Huh? Somebody does?
Yes.
What's a bread bowl?
Well, from my understanding, it's a wooden bowl, a large wooden bowl that they put bread in.
Yeah, that's where they mix it, right?
Yeah, they can mix it in there. It just depends on how large it is. Some of them are huge.
So there are Italian homes today where they have a big wooden bowl, cover it with plastic wrap or foil, but that big wooden bowl is filled with double hot flour and salt, kind of a little blend of double hot flour and salt. And when it's time for dinner, and the mama of the house is gonna make some homemade pasta for dinner. She gets down maybe on top of the refrigerator. She'll pull down that big wooden bowl that's filled with flour, make a well, crack her eggs, and in that case, just gonna use whole eggs. So I'm not asking you to experiment to this point, but 2 cups of flour and roughly 4 whole eggs will be about the same thing as our 6 egg, 2 whole eggs and 4 egg yolks. But let's not play a whole lot with moisture right now, okay? But she'll just crack in 4 eggs, beat the eggs, and then gradually stir in flour just like I did. And when she has enough of the right texture or consistency, the blend, she'll take that right out of the big bowl full of flour. And miraculously, she's picked up all of the egg pieces out of the bowl. She's on a work surface with a little all-purpose flour, and she eats her pasta to this point and has a perpetual bowl of flour waiting to be turned into pasta. Okay. Very important at this point. We need to get this covered with a damp cloth or wrapped in some, good. We got some plastic wrap across the room.
Why a damp cloth?
It prevents there being a skin like drawing on the top of it.
Oh, okay.
Because otherwise the outside will harden. And then when you try to roll it out, it kind of changes. It's got a couple different textures. But you can ask Chef when he comes back.
So what were y'all saying? I couldn't hear you just a minute ago.
Oh, no, just girl talk.
Just
So
girl
the
talk?
question is, why the damp cloth?
Okay,
Why the damp cloth?
damp cloth or a wrap, okay, is going to keep the pasta from being exposed to the air. Damp cloth is going to keep the surface of the pasta from drying out. Wrapping it up in plastic is going to keep the surface of the pasta from drying out. This stuff is going to dry pretty quickly. And so we don't want that to happen. Something needs to happen between now and when we're ready to cook it, okay? If the texture of your pasta is good, like Play-Doh, then it only takes about half an hour. If your pasta is really, really dense, then this step is allowing the flour to hydrate. The little particles of flour have to soak up moisture. And there's not a whole lot of water in the egg in relation to the amount of flour that there is. And so we have to give this time to rest so that the flour can hydrate. Then it'll be ready to use. And so this ought to take about half an hour. We probably won't take the whole half an hour, but while this is resting, we'll come back to pasta. So let's try this. There we go. We're gonna make some pesto. Have any of y'all ever made pesto before? Tara,
Yep.
do y'all like pesto? Crying shame. I'm going to take some of this home. I love pesto. Not as much as Dr. Pepper, but almost. Not as much as bacon, but almost. And I love it. Just toss this and some cream in a pan and then toss that with your pasta. Just plain pesto and pasta. Love it. My wife, her no like. So I have to do pasta different times, different ways. I sneak it in for me. And so here is your pasta bag, a pesto bag. You get some oil. And this stuff's old. Hi. Yeah, I'm in. Come on if you want to see. Huh? Okay, so you have a recipe, right?
Yes, sir.
Not necessarily following the exact recipe, but it's all the same stuff. Hmm? So Terry probably put that on a minute ago. You buy all whole grain wheat flour from King Arthur. Have you tried to make pasta with that?
I haven't tried to make pasta with it yet. I bought it to make bread.
That's probably good for making bread. I don't know that it's really going to be great for pasta, but it's worth a try. You do, add that to one of these experiments that you do with the all-purpose flour, the semolina flour, the double
Okay.
flour, and a blend of those. So pesto is going to be, there are all kinds of combinations, but this basic pesto is going to be basil, some pine nuts, some Parmesan cheese, some whole garlic, and a little pinch of salt. I always taste it before adding any salt, depending on the quality of the Parmesan cheese that you're using. If you're using that crap Parmesan cheese out of the green shaker container, that doesn't even taste like Parmesan cheese. It doesn't taste like anything. If you're using real Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, the salt content is really, really high. And so in a lot of dishes, that's what's used in Italy in place of salt. That is the salt. And so I never add salt to my pesto until everything else is put together. And then that salt is just there as a flavor enhancer. Okay. So I'm going to come over here, and you might also have some, let me move this camera and open all of this up. And so you have mostly this kind of stuff, right? You don't have this much of the pine nuts. There wasn't any on the cart for me, so I just grabbed a whole bunch. Olive oil is going to be something that we drizzle in later. So we're going to start with the now you can do this in a blender. You can do this if you have a food processor. It is much, much easier. This is difficult to do just by hand, to chop this by hand very fine, but that's possible. Obviously, this has been made for hundreds and hundreds of years, long before there was ever food processors. But I'm in the food processor to start. We're going to add basil leaves. And it's best if it's just the leaves, but it really doesn't matter if the stems go in as well. These stems aren't like thyme stems or rosemary stems that are super fibrous and don't break down. But it takes longer if you throw the stems in as well. It's not necessarily, it's not going to hurt you or kill you But if you see right here, in some of our basil, this basil it's beginning to go to flower. Why we need to know that, if you do any gardening, if you're going to grow basil that grows really easy in Arkansas, when you start to see these in your garden, it's best pick those off. Okay, this is the beginning. These are the flower buds. And behind those flowers is where the seed will develop. There's no seed in this yet. But when these flower buds begin, then all of the nutrients coming from the ground is being diverted to the flower for the flower and the seed development, and that those nutrients aren't going to the leaves anymore. So the flavor development really stops there. If you pick these off, boom, then all of that nutrient is going to continue to go to the leaves, which is what we want for culinary purposes. So there you have a little added knowledge. You're welcome. And so, you know, there is a specific recipe that I gave you, and you can follow that recipe for those ratios. If you follow that recipe precisely, fine. Yeah, look at that right there. Almost roll that up and smoke it. I don't know why anyone would have. I don't know why anyone would have smoked, much less smoke basil. That's, all right. So there's our basil. Gonna toss in, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. That's pretty good. All right, since I have them, throw in a couple more. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add some pine nuts.
Jeff, I have a question.
Yes, please.
If I have a family member that has a nut allergy,
Leave them out.
do what?
Leave them out.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You could use other nuts if you don't have a nut allergy. We're not going to explore all the many different variations, but if y'all remember Food 1 and doing bruschetta, when we had all those appetizers, the bruschetta, the stuffed mushrooms, all of that stuff. And that, you know, bruschetta is really an Italian version of salsa. And, you know, you substitute cilantro for basil, substitute lime juice for balsamic vinegar, so on and so forth. Pesto, same thing. You can take other green herbs. In fact, if you want to try this, a little oil, a little queso cotija. That's kind of, you know, Mexican hard, like Parmesan cheese almost. You can use that. You can use some arugula, and then use some toasted pecan or toasted walnuts, and whip all that with some olive oil. That's a completely different kind of taste, but it's pretty marvelous. Notice here, I've not added cheese yet. Cheese can start to get a little bit gummy, and I've not started the oil yet. But good. I'm going to drizzle in a little oil. Of course, I don't have enough in here to really. This is really great. When you put the plate doesn't go all the way down. I don't like that. What a mess. All right, let's see what. Okay. Always have a plan B, right?
Always.
When we're really cooking in the kitchen, sometimes things don't want to work. And this is going to work. All right, it should work. If you have a blender that doesn't have a lid, always cover it. You know, use a towel or something. Make sure you have it covered. Otherwise, you might end up wearing it. Oh, well, you know what? Works faster when you plug it up. You know what they say, we're really cooking. because I don't have a lid, I've got to pulse it. And add just a little bit of oil at a time. Oh, I'm a meal. One more little mix. I wish y'all were here to taste this. No, I don't.
Me too.
Here, I'd have to share it with you. Oh, that's
I
good.
also pour my leftover pesto into little ice cube trays and I freeze it, and then I can just pluck it out whenever I want to throw it in a soup or something.
That's a great idea, but whenever I make just this kind of volume, I will eat that.
Oh, I like pull out all the basil from the yard and do it all at once in a giant batch.
Oh, that's a good idea. Especially if you grow a lot. All right, a little cleanup over here, a little cleanup on aisle 2.
What's the consistency, Chef? Is it like more pasty?
Yeah, I mean, so here's a butter knife. It's I make it, I like it this way.
Looks like avocado.
Make it about the texture, about the consistency of natural, fresh peanut butter,
Okay,
if that gives you an idea.
somewhat, yes.
Good, very delicious. Yummy. All right. Now let's come back to the pasta. After we first take a drink of our poison. And so for my purposes this evening, this is what I'm going to use some of this all-purpose flour for. Got a rolling pin. We're going to take out some of this, some of our pasta here. I'm going to cut off a piece, just a random piece. Okay, and wrap the rest of it back up. Now, this piece, Calvin's rolling so big. This first little bit, I'm doing, we'll call this old school. Like ancient method. Rolling this out by hand. If it happens to spring back a lot, when you press it and you spring, it springs back, it hasn't hydrated enough. You may have made it a little bit thick, a little bit dense. Now, listen to this. You want to roll this out almost deceptively thin compared to dry supermarket pasta. Homemade pasta is going to swell almost double in size, thickness. And so don't roll this out the same thickness as you buy store-bought pasta. Okay, roll this a little thinner. Does that make sense? Almost lower. I don't know how well you can see in the camera compared to, my fingers. This is the equivalent of, I don't know, 4 or 5 sheets of paper. That's about how thick this is. With a little layer of flour all over. All sides. One thing you can do with this pasta is simply roll it. Like you're going to roll rolling cinnamon rolls. You're going to need a little pile of flour nearby. And then however thick you want to make this, you can look this up. There are prescribed thicknesses for pappardelle, tagliatelle, fettuccine, linguine, spaghetti, vermicelli, capellini. That's going from the regular noodle pasta, long noodle pasta, from one end, pappardelle, to the very thinnest capellini or angel hair. Okay. And so pappardelle or tagliatelle will probably be just cut by hand You see? There's one thing you can do. And you can also make this, flour it really well, keep it kind of loose in a little basket like this, put it on a sheet pan and put that in the freezer, just like this. And then take it out tomorrow and put it in Ziploc bags. Put it in your boiling water right from the freezer. Or you can lay this out on a sheet pan, flour it up pretty good like this. And by the time you come back, probably tomorrow morning, this is going to be it'll be brittle. It'll dry just overnight. Now it's only flour and egg and salt. Do you think that's food safe? Is there a problem with that?
I don't think so.
Not supposed to leave food out over
Because
4
there's
hours.
eggs in it.
It's got eggs in it, yep.
As it dries, so the process of dehydrating, something drying removes water. When the water is gone, bacteria cannot grow. So even egg noodles, dried egg noodles, that's food safe, shelf stable. There you go. Little confusion. So this right here, some of this I'm going to unwrap. Now let's be maybe a little bit on the pretty side. So I'm doing this just with my knife. You could do this with like a pizza roller. Oops. You could do this with a ravioli cutter as well. See, I have these rectangles. If I take this rectangle and I kind of fold it in the middle and I pinch it, what do we have?
Bow tie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to let it dry before you cook it?
No. Those are ready to cook. Boiling, already rolling, rapid boiling, salted. This pasta compared to store-bought dry pasta. So bow tie pasta is going to take 10 to 12 minutes. This bow tie pasta is going to take about 3. This tagliatelle-ish pasta, store-bought, it's going to take about 8 to 10 minutes. That's going to take about 2 minutes. The benefit in the restaurant world, let me get some of this flour off my hands. I want to show you one more. And I'll use these pieces right here. And I'll just kind of put this back together. Oh boy. favorite pastas. It's very heavy. It's great with meat sauces. It holds meat sauce really well. Have you heard of orecchiette? Anyone?
Yes, chef.
You have?
They're little bowl things.
They're little bowl things. Their name it comes from the Italian word for ear. And it's referring to, they say it's kind of referring to an elephant's ear. And so you have this snake, and just using a plain old table knife, this almost looks like, it's just pasta though. It almost looks like I'm cutting out little gnocchis. If this were, y'all know what that is? This is, a gnocchi is a potato pasta. So now if I take this little piece I just cut, I press it with my thumb and then push it one way, okay? It creates this almost like a shell. It's this little bowl. If they're thick, they're dense, they're heavy. I love them. Very classical, using this in a soup. Almost like, you know, you can do chicken-based, like a chicken soup with a lot of spinach, whole leaf spinach, and then cook some of these in there, and it's a very high-end version of almost chicken noodle soup. Chicken spinach orecchiette. I don't know how to say all of that in Italian. So we have this. We have a bow tie. We have some tagliatelle. Just for the sake of space that I have here, are any of you familiar with a pasta rolling machine, a pasta roller?
I'm familiar with it.
Yes, no, yes.
No.
Yeah, you're talking about the attachments that you can buy for your KitchenAid.
So there's attachments for your KitchenAid. Yeah.
Mhm.
That one that you can roll out that has a lot of them that's look like a pizza dough. Like a pizza cutter, but it has like 5 in a row.
Well, okay, there's that.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like an accordion thing, and they got the little wheels, and yeah, you can use that. I'm referring more to doohickey like this. Okay, this you can hand roll. This dial, there's usually 0 to 10, 0 being the widest, and then you continue to get this smaller and smaller and smaller.
I've seen those, but I've never used it.
Okay. This is the same pasta. You can make ravioli with exactly the same pasta. Stuff a ravioli with, I don't know, be creative, whatever you can think to stuff a ravioli with. I love to do Italian sausage, hot Italian sausage and cheese. So a little ricotta, a little bit of cream cheese, mozzarella, provolone, a little Parmesan, a little Romano. Oh, mamma mia, delicioso. Okay, pasta, pesto. What questions do you have or concerns? Bueller?
I don't have any.
You feel pretty good about just diving in and giving this a try?
I do.
When you're boiling your pasta, does it change? Like, does it get lighter in color?
That's so the short answer, Erlene, is yes. But there's really more to that answer. You know, it's depend a lot on the eggs that you use, the quality of the eggs. You know, we're not using farm fresh eggs, but the eggs that I just used, I don't know how well color went through the interwebs and through Zoom, but
They were very dark yolk eggs.
yeah, these were
Yes.
dark yolks. That's kind
They're
of
like
good.
close to orange.
Very
Yes.
close to orange. And so this pasta is going to turn more from the deeper yellow that it is to not white, but kind of beige-ish. So the color will change, but the pasta will float.
Okay.
When you put the pasta, fresh pasta, that dough goes into your boiling water. Depending on the thickness of your pasta, it'll take, a couple of minutes. It could take 4 or 5 minutes. If you do this orecchiette, for example, that's thicker pasta. It's going to take 4 or 5 minutes to cook, but it'll go from the bottom. It'll float to the top. And when it floats, I'd give it about 30 seconds floating and then take it out with a fork, with tongs. The ideal situation is you have a pan with some kind of sauce already ready to go, a marinara sauce, just tomato sauce, a bolognese meat spaghetti sauce kind of thing, a cream sauce, not so much a cream sauce with this, a tomato sauce. Then you're taking the pasta right out of the water with your tongs, with whatever, and then right into your pan of sauce. And you're kind of tossing pasta in the sauce. And while that's still cooking, a tomato sauce is going to thicken up really, really fast. And so you'll break up the sauce and the pasta just a little bit with some hot, salty, starchy pasta water. But that depends on the sauce. What I want you to experience is the pasta. What I want you to experience is something pretty close to Italy. And in Italy, it's all about the pasta. In the United States, it's all about the sauce. And a lasagna in Italy is going to be layers of thin sheeted pasta with a little bit of sauce just splashed in between. And they'll stack up 10, 12, 15 layers of pasta. And the sauce is there so that you're not just eating plain old pasta, but really it's all about the pasta, much more so than the sauce. I also want you to experience the pasta handmade, but you experiment with a couple of combinations of flour. And if all you can manage to do this week is one batch of pasta with the double aught flour and one batch of pasta with the all-purpose flour, because that's what you have, do at least that. And there's going to be some differences between the two. And I'd kind of like to chat about those a little bit next week. Remember, next week, we're going to be in person. Are we still planning on that?
Yes.
So
Yes, chef. I'm excited.
next Tuesday at 4, right?
Right, that is correct.
Mise en place time, 4 o'clock. Because we got to take advantage of some daylight time that we have with the big offset smoker. And we are also going to learn to build, we're going to do a stovetop smoking indoors. And so that's going to be nice to do here so you don't smoke up your house at home.
I appreciate that.
Home, you want to do it outside, or you want to do it with a really, really good hood. And we've got some really good hoods in the Gold Lab.
So we don't need to pick up our groceries, right? They'll be at the lab when we get there.
Dude, yeah, you do not need to. In fact, you don't have groceries to pick up anymore, except for the final practical. Can I mention the final practical exam for just a minute?
One more question. Do we need to bring, I'm assuming we need to bring our knives with us when we come? What do we need to bring other than our uniforms?
Uniform, knives, just
Okay.
just like any in-person class. Uniform.
Okay.
Yep. I've got everything else, tongs and spoons and towels, all that kind of stuff. And we'll be in the Gold Lab. Everybody's familiar with the Gold Lab. So there we go. The date for our final practical exam is the following week. So I didn't write that down. What would that be? Well, let me look. Could also look on the syllabus.
26th.
Okay, but it'll open up. It'll start. You will be able to pick up product for the final practical exam on the 21st. So you could get your product that Thursday or Friday, the 21st or 22nd. You could pick it up Monday, the 25th, the 26th, but you have that entire week. It'll actually open up on the 25th, and you'll have to submit your practical exam by the end of the day on Sunday, the 24th. Kind of like all of that.
Sunday the 1st.
Sunday the 1st. What did I say? The 24th? Yeah, it's hard for you to, I messed that up. For the practical exam to open on the 25th, but you have to submit it by the 24th. Okay. It's been one of those days. So my apologies. Opens on the 25th. You have to submit it by the 1st. Unless, except, I know that there's work commitments and all of that. I had to do this around the availability of evaluators. Some of y'all have been involved in my research study practical exams in the past. Terry and Tay, y'all did that last semester for Food One. I'm doing the same thing. This is the last semester, and I have good data. This semester is proving whether or not the data that I already have is solid. And there's a couple of folks that'll get the recording of this. There's only 4 of you on right now. It would really be awesome if I could have at least 2 or 3 of you, but all I can do is just invite and encourage. You've got your schedules and stuff, and it is what it is. Tuesday, May 3rd. It's actually, we're at the beginning of final written exam, but from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That includes setup time and relax a minute time, and it includes cleanup time at the end. If you can spare those 3 hours from 10 to 1, here at the culinary school in the Gold Lab. There will be a research study final practical exam. The exam will be exactly the same, whether you're doing just the regular for grade or you're doing this research exam. You're gonna sear a filet to medium rare. You're gonna grill a ribeye to medium rare. You're gonna poach a salmon fillet. And you're gonna create one plate presentation with rice pilaf, some kind of vegetable, depending on what we have, some kind of sauce that's appropriate to the protein. And you'll use one of those 3 proteins for your plate presentation. I don't care if it's steak or if it's filet or if it's your poached salmon.
Are we making the rice pilaf as well?
You're making the rice pilaf, yes.
Will we be doing this all simultaneously, or do you have time frames that you want us to do it in?
You're going to do it all simultaneously. So for the one, the research study, is that what you're talking about, Jay? Yeah, no, everybody's just going to it's going to go. And then for food 2, I expect we'll probably have a total of 8 to 10 people. And we have 3, maybe 4 evaluators. And so 8 or 10 people is not too many for these evaluators. And the way it'll work is when you're done with a component, you'll present it. You'll just say, hey, I'm done with my fish. I'm done with my ribeye. And whatever protein you're going to use for your final plate, you'll present that protein with your plate. You'll do it all in 2 hours. If you can make that work on Tuesday the 3rd, what I give you is an exemption for the class final practical exam. I exempt the grade. It goes away and you get 50 bonus points.
I am going to try to make that. So
I am too.
I'll let you know. I'm going to let my supervisor know.
Okay. Probably tomorrow, I've got to say the same thing. Food 1 is doing the same exam later that day. And so I've got tomorrow morning's Food 1 class to share this same kind of stuff with in person. And then just like semester, I'm going to create a Google Doc and send that out to all students. So look for that in your email and you'll just sign up on the Google Doc. It will include the details. So if you didn't make all the notes, it'll tell you what you've got to do: a filet, a ribeye, a salmon, a plate presentation, all of that. And so first serve, food 2 this semester is kind of, we have 3 smallish classes. And so it is.
So Chef,
Through email again?
Yes, what happened?
You have to sign up through email again?
You'll sign up through, just like we've done before, Jay, send out the link to the Google Doc. And if it doesn't work for you or whatever, you can send me an email, but wait until you get the link to the Google Doc. My preference is that you sign up on the Google Doc. But I take emails. Who else was up? Terry, were you asking a question?
well, I just want to make sure I heard you clearly. The final and practical exam, which is open between the 5th and we have to be completed by with it on the 1st, that is exempt if we do the research study exam on Tuesday the 3rd, right?
That is correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure.
Which means, with that clarification, Let me give you the warning.
Okay.
Now, I hope y'all know when I was interviewed for this job, one of the questions I was asked is what I hope my students would say about me. And more than anything else, I hope, and this will be a little example of that. I hope that at least one of the things you all can say about Chef Hall is that he's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Play favorites. I really do like this class. We're a small class, but I have fun with Ewans, and
Yuns.
I really like this class. But it doesn't win you any extra favors or extra points or anything like that. And so to be completely fair and consistent with everybody, and to further clarify Terry's question, yes, if you participate on May the 3rd, you're exempt from the 25th through the 1st. Exempt from that. But notice, May the 3rd happens after the final practical week.
Mm-hmm.
Exempt, you won't show up because it's exempt, right? You're only
Right.
product one time. And so you don't show up and, heaven forbid something happens and you also don't show up on the 3rd. I remove the exemption, which gives you a 0 for the final practical exam and no extra credit. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure that's clear. I've had to repeat that a few times just to make sure that there's no confusion. That happened with at least one person in the previous 4 semesters that I've done this.
Mm-hmm.
Always been at least one that, well, I thought and I didn't, but I did and I was gonna. The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yep.
My mom used to tell me that all the time, but son, the road to hell is paved with I'm gonna. So, that's all I have to say about that.
I had a question and that took it away.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, do we need to get there early enough to prep this, or will this already be set at our stations? And do we have assigned stations, or is it first come, first serve?
Kind of first come, first serve. Station assignments may be made depending on how many people sign up and we show up. We really have room, even for food too. We've got room in the Gold Lab for 24 participants in this study exam. We don't have 24 Food 2 students this semester.
Oh.
And online altogether. So everybody can do this. That's it.
Okay.
And so where you're going to be, I would, for a variety of reasons, I want to spread out so that a whole class isn't together. And it's not about separating online and in-person people. We have 3 Food 2 classes. I teach one online, in person. Chef McAfee teaches one in person, and then I have this one online. And it's natural for us all to gravitate to be around our friends and all of that. But I'd like us to be a little bit spread out. But I'm not specifically assigning stations, especially for Food 2. So there you go. What else?
That's
Is
it.
meat, the cuts of meat and stuff like that, we're gonna need at the stations, or do we need to like go to product and get that?
No, I'll have a cart built with all the stuff. And you'll pick the cart. You'll you'll get your steak, you'll pick your filet, you'll get your salmon, you'll get, whatever product you want, you need. That's why 10 o'clock, the exam itself, the clock will start at 10:30. And the clock will go from 10:30 to 12:30. A half hour is plenty of time to kind of get your station set up, but 2 hours is maybe pushing it a little bit for some. We've never had an issue in the past of anybody needing extra time. So there you go. What else, my people?
I'm good.
Peace out.
See y'all later. I gotta finish dinner.
Deuces.
See y'all later. See you in person in the Go Lab next week, 4 o'clock.
All right, toodles.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Y'all have a good day.
Have a
Be
good
careful in the
night.
web, Chef.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.